Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Oh, hello, my dear listeners. It is me, your old pal, Sawtooth Frank, coming to you on the Soft Serve podcast. I am tired. I am jet-lagged, back from 2.5 weeks abroad in Europe and Africa. And what did I do on the plane ride home? I wrote another reflection that I'm going to share with you in this episode. It is my thoughts about being abroad, being an American abroad in these times, etc., etc. So, we'll get into all of that after the intro music.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
You're a loser, a scumbag, lower than scum. You are a absolute zero. Absolute zero. Lower than scum. A scumbag. Absolute zero.
Oh, yeah. I'm an absolute zero, baby. Yeah.
Lower than scum.
That's right.
A scumbag.
You know it.
Absolute zero.
Oh, yeah. Absolute zero. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I'm feeling tired today. Yeah. Yesterday, we had a 9-hour flight back from España, Spain. That's a country in Europe. Did you know that? I don't think I knew that before I went there. No, I'm just kidding. I knew Spain was in Europe. But honestly, I think before going to Spain, I didn't know a whole lot about Spain. But let's back it up a bit, shall we? I am back from a 2.5-week vacation abroad. As I said, after the disclaimer and before the intro music, Stomping Jen and I and our daughter, Space Unicorn, went away over the winter holidays for 2.5 weeks. So we left December 18th, 2025, and did not return until January 4th, 2026. Like, I know going away on a long-ass vacation sounds like a wonderful idea, but I gotta be honest with you, it's not for me. I think a week into the vacation, I was starting to feel tired, like I wanted to come home. It didn't help while we were away. There were all sorts of weather events happening at our home. So snowstorms, windstorms, ice storms, Arctic blasts, you name it, it was going on. And I was worried about the house, even though we had a house sitter staying here. I had to arrange getting a plow to come while I was over in Europe. It was a whole thing. And after about a week and some days, the whole trip started wearing on my nerves a little bit. But, I'm a worrier by nature. And I don't know, even all of that stuff aside, being away from your home for 2.5 weeks is a long, long, long time to be away. So, we got back, as I'm recording this, just yesterday, at midnight. Our plane left from Barcelona at 6-something o'clock, and there's my motherfucking watch again, going off, disrupting my fucking train of thought. Even though I have this fucking thing on silent mode. God damn it. So our plane left from Barcelona at 6:30 p.m. Barcelona time, and did not get back into Boston until 8:50ish p.m. Right, so the time kind of goes backwards when you're flying, and it was almost 9 hours total flight time. And the plane ride was not pleasant, let me just tell you that. It was a giant Airbus, the kind with 2 rows on either side and 2 rows of 2 seats on the left and right side of the plane, and a row of 3 seats down the middle. So a huge plane carrying a huge number of people. And it seemed like this plane was transporting a number of college students from España and other places in Europe to the States to do some studying abroad. I overheard some conversations going on around me, but the teenagers on this plane were annoying the living shit out of me. They were getting up and down. They were standing in the aisles. They were talking. They were laughing. I'm pretty sure they were vaping in the bathroom even. I kept smelling a sweet, fruity smell. And one of these teenagers I saw riding around on a suitcase in the airport while we were waiting for the plane to board. And she was just like openly vaping in the airport. So, anyways, I suspect that teenager and some others may have been going into the bathroom to vape on the plane. And all I kept thinking to myself was, oh my God, if they get caught vaping, they're going to turn this fucking plane around or something like that. So, I'm dealing with the frustration of the annoying teenagers, the panic of the plane getting turned around, or, something happening and the plane having to be turned around due to a mechanical issue that happened to my father-in-law. He met us over in Europe for this trip. It was a family vacation, and that happened to my father-in-law. He had left the airport in Washington, D.C., and they got about half an hour into their flight to Spain, and they had to turn the plane around due to a mechanical issue. So I was worried something like that was going to happen to us. Anyways, we got back, and of course, as I record this, I'm still tired and jet-lagged because, being overseas for 2.5 weeks with a 6-hour time difference, I feel like I was fully adapted to being 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time, which is the time zone that I am in where I record this podcast on the East Coast of Massachusetts. So, anyways, I'm tired, and I'm sitting there on this plane, this 9-hour ride, realizing I don't have anything for the podcast this week. Because I pre-recorded the 3 episodes for the 3 weeks that I was going to be away and not able to record anything, and had loaded those in and those auto-published, but I realized flying home I had nothing for this week, so I better get to it and write something. So it got me thinking about my experience being over in Europe for 2.5 weeks, and what I want to say about that. Because a lot of shit happened while we were gone, right? Not just the weather stuff I told you about that was causing me a lot of anxiety, but of course, Donald Trump, our piece of president of the United States.
You're not a nice person.
Invaded a foreign country and kidnapped their president.
Wrong.
And that was very uncomfortable to have happening while I was overseas. So I began thinking about what was my experience vacationing overseas for 2.5 weeks as an American, with our country, in my opinion, falling apart around us and descending into authoritarianism and fascism.
Fake news.
To benefit the ultra-rich. So that's what I ended up writing about on the plane. I put together a little essay about that. But before I read it to you, just so you know, like, where I was for 2.5 weeks, Stomping Jen and I, it was actually the 17th, I believe. December 17th, we flew to Madrid, Spain, to meet up with our son, who was studying abroad for the fall 2025 semester. He was over in Madrid. So we spent a couple days hanging out in Madrid with our son, and then we did a family cruise. So Stomping Jen's sister and her family met us. They have 4 kids. And my brother-in-law flew over to Spain, and my father-in-law and his life partner flew over to Spain as well. And we all met in Barcelona for a 12-night cruise that traveled all over the place. I don't even know the name of the sea. I think it was the Mediterranean Sea. I'm not even sure, but I tell you, the cruise left from Barcelona, went to Gibraltar, right, the famous Rock of Gibraltar, and then it went to the Canary Islands, then it went to Casablanca, which is in Morocco, which is in Africa, and then it went to Tangier, which is another city in Morocco, and then the cruise went to Malaga, Spain, and then back to Barcelona. So sort of a big loop in that area of the world. And obviously, the cruise was over the Christmas holiday, it was over the New Year holiday, and it was a very long affair. But saw many, many amazing things that I'm not going to bore you with on this podcast. But in visiting all of these places, I was carrying my identity as an American with me. And I was thinking along the way about traveling now in this day and age as an American through these countries and how that made me feel. And anyways, I ended up writing this reflection, this essay, whatever you want to call it, that I'm going to read to you right now, okay? So here we go. It is called Back in the U.S.A., the United States of Assholes. Here we go. For the last 2.5 weeks, my family and I have been in Europe and Africa on vacation. This is my 3rd trip to Europe, my first to Africa. In 1999, Stomping Jen and I went to the Netherlands. We did all of the Dutch things, including visiting coffee shops and museums in Amsterdam, excursions to the countryside to see windmills and wooden shoemakers, and eating cheese. Lots of cheese. The Dutch people were delightful, if a bit stiff. So much so, one tour guide said he could see a little Dutch in me. We weren't sure if that was an assessment of my possible lineage or an awkward invitation. Whatever the case, we loved our visit to the Netherlands and our first trip to Europe. 24 years later, in 2023, Stomping Jen and I took our 2 kids to Ireland for a week and some number of days to celebrate my 50th birthday. This trip was a whirlwind drive across and around the country, which we talked about on an episode of the podcast that I cannot remember, but if you go back through our back catalog and search for it, I'm sure you can find it if you want to hear the particulars about that trip. Our whole family absolutely loved Ireland and the Irish people. But after our visit to the Emerald Isle, Stomping Jen and I were committed to not waiting another 20 plus years to get back to Europe. Good idea, considering this would mean I would be in my 70s. What the fuck? Am I really this old? Anyway, last winter, when an opportunity came up to schedule a Europe and North Africa family cruise over the 2025 to 2026 winter holidays, we all said yes. Coincidentally, as I told you about earlier, our son Ted would end up studying abroad in Madrid, Spain for the fall 2025 semester, which gave us a chance to meet up with him in Madrid before the family vacation. This most recent trip, from December 17th, 2025 to January 4th, 2026, was long. Almost too long. Our itinerary took us to Madrid, Spain, Barcelona, Spain, Gibraltar, 3 of Spain's Canary Islands, Casablanca and Tangier in Africa's country of Morocco, Malaga, Spain, and then back to Barcelona for a couple of days. Holy fucking shit, that is a lot of places to type out, and it was a lot of places to visit. I wrote most of this reflection on the almost 9-hour flight home from Barcelona. What the fuck else was I going to do? And I'm recording this the evening after getting back home. I am fucking exhausted, as I said before, jet lagged, out of sorts, and my head is spinning from almost 18 days of nomadic living. I'm not sure how to tell you about this trip and all the amazing places and things we saw. I don't want this episode to be the audio equivalent of an overexcited dad giving a boring vacation photos presentation in the living room. Would you care for a cocktail weenie and an ice-cold glass of lemonade? Instead of giving you the blow by excruciating blow, I'll talk to you about some stuff I was thinking about while we were traveling. How's that? Okay, let's do it. Having been to Europe 3 times and now Africa once, the most striking thing is the realization of how much older these places are in comparison to the United States. Like thousands of years compared to our 250 years. I felt the physical and cultural history everywhere I went in Europe and Africa. Take Barcelona, Spain, for example. We were wandering around the Gothic Quarter, my brother-in-law leading us down a never-ending maze of twisting and turning stone brick alleyways. Around every turn, something amazing to see. A 15th century cathedral, a castle ensconced with gargoyles, and the nearly 2,000-year-old remnants of a Roman temple, 4 pillars of which still stand. As I stood there touching and smelling the damp stone, I thought about Americans who love to get on their high horse and crow about the deep and rich history of the United States, and chuckled. Give me a fucking break. We ain't got shit on Europe when it comes to deep and rich history. In the life cycle of civilizations and nations, we're still crawling, nursing on the breast, and shitting our diapers. We are fucking infants compared to a country like Spain and other older nations. While we're talking about babies in very fucking old places, let's talk about Africa, the literal cradle of human civilization. I feel so fortunate that I was able to visit Casablanca and Tangier, 2 of the largest cities in Morocco, Casablanca being the nation's capital city. First of all, I'm grateful to learn firsthand that these places are far from being the shitholes that our absolute piece of President Donald J. Trump wants us to believe they are.
You're not a nice person.
Modern buildings and amenities abound. There are electric and hybrid vehicles everywhere, and sustainability is top of mind. The cities are clean, cleaner than many U.S. cities I have visited. And the people? Warm, welcoming, and patient with my obviously fish-out-of-water American self. Yes, I know they are probably accommodating to all of the tourists coming through with our buckets of money. But my fears about being treated with hostility upon being discovered as an American were never realized. Even though we probably deserve it, given the way our piece of president talks about these people in their home cities and countries.
Fake news.
While on the subject of Africa, it's worth noting the single most beautiful building I have ever been inside of, ever, is the Casablanca Mosque. Do me a favor and pause this episode and do a Google image search. Look this place up. I have never beheld such architectural grandeur in person. Awesome and breathtaking are insufficient descriptors. I didn't mention the cats in Africa, did I? Everywhere we went in Morocco, there were felines. Cats in streets, graveyards, shop windows, and restaurants. I asked our guide about this. Africans love cats, he told me. Not to eat, as pets, to take care of and look at. He wasn't kidding. The sidewalks and alleys are filled with food dishes and makeshift cardboard box shelters for cats. Don't allow my love of Africa's infatuation with cats to fool you. Let me be real clear. I'm not saying there aren't serious societal issues and problems in some of the places we visited. For example, homosexuality is illegal in Morocco. Objectively horrible, and I wish it wasn't so. And our Moroccan tour guide made a point to tell me that the Moroccan legal system is essentially a sham, that citizens have little to no actual legal due process. You get arrested for a crime, and you go to jail. Full stop. Again, there's some objectively horrible stuff going on in Europe and Africa. I'm just sharing my thoughts about some of the good stuff I experienced. If you're looking for someone to give you a smart, balanced, and insightful look into other cultures, you'll have to look somewhere else. Sorry, I'm probably not the podcaster for you. All right, switching gears again. This is interesting. Our Moroccan tour guide also made a point to tell us that Moroccan people don't like to hurry. We eat breakfast late, around 11 a.m. if we can. He also made a point that some folks have to get up early and eat their breakfasts before 11 due to their work schedules, but they'd rather not if they had a choice in the matter. I think he even said that in Casablanca, everyone is lazy. Or maybe that was Tangier. I think it was Tangier. My son, who spent the last several months studying in Madrid, Spain, made a similar observation about the Spanish. At least in Madrid, about the Spanish not liking to be rushed, getting their day started later and staying up later. He did not say that the people that he met were lazy. That's what our tour guide said about the people in Tangier. My guess is that this is partly what pieces of like President Trump find objectionable about other cultures.
Fake news.
They reject the United States of America's social rat race, do things at their own speed, with less urgency. And let's be honest, people in the United States hurry too much. I hate hurrying. We inject false urgency into situations that don't require urgency. Yes, for some things it makes sense to hurry. Getting to the next gas station when the needle has been on E for 30 minutes. Injecting anti-venom as quickly as possible after a poisonous snake or spider bite. Cutting out the cancer, infiltrating your organs. However, most of us hurry for situations and circumstances that are inconsequential in the grand scheme. On my 2.5-week European and African vacation, I was at breakfast. Our cruise ship was at sea, and there was no port of call that day. Nothing but time to kill. I was sitting alone early in the morning, enjoying a bowl of muesli and fresh fruit. My favorite vacation breakfast. The sea was calm and beautiful, the sun starting to rise on the eastern horizon line. A beautiful morning moment, which was interrupted by an American man in his 70s screaming at his wife to hurry up for the buffet. Let me tell you something. There is no reason to hurry for the buffet on a cruise ship. None. There is even less reason to get upset about wanting to hurry that you scream at your wife. 0 is the % chance that the buffet on a cruise ship is going to run out of food. I consistently saw loud, obnoxious and boorish American behavior while I was abroad. I'm not saying people from other cultures don't display the same behaviors. They do. But I saw a lot of it coming from Americans. And the thing that blows my mind is that when we're abroad, citizens from other countries are still nice to us. Genuinely, I was afraid to travel as an American. At one point, I considered getting a Canadian flag baseball hat. I feared that people would project the words and actions of our piece of president and his MAGA fuck onto me and my American traveling companions. They didn't. Even after Trump kidnapped the president of another country, which happened while we were in Barcelona, Spain.
Fake news.
Everywhere we went, we were treated with warmth, kindness, and compassion. Almost like we were the victims of our own political system and leadership. I suspect many of our human cousins in Europe and Africa probably know that the type of people who support our piece of president,
You're not a nice person.
Donald Trump, likely would not be interested in traveling abroad. I think that's right.
Wrong.
I didn't see a single red MAGA hat or any other sign of Trump support while traveling abroad.
Fake news.
In some ways, with the recent actions of our government, I feel like we've come back to a different and more dangerous country than I left.
Wrong.
What a difference 2.5 weeks can make, and what a fucking wonderful way to start 2026. Okay, here's a stupid non sequitur to end this reflection. Do you know what I'm going to miss the most about Europe? The bottles of water and soft drinks. Every plastic lid on a bottle has a little hinge on it that flips over, keeping it attached to the bottle so that it doesn't fall off and pollute the environment. How fucking awesome is this? Why can't we do this in the United States? I'll tell you why. Because some stupid fucking red hat wearing maggot asshole media personality or legislator will cry, bitch, and moan about the new green scam and woke water bottles. I don't think that that's a stretch. I 100% guarantee you that if we tried to introduce these types of bottle tops in the United States, we'd be hearing from the fucking maggots about woke water bottles. Anyway, for now, I'm glad to be back in my house with my family, pets, and friends, and in the good old United States of assholes. Okay, that was my reflection. And I recognize the reading of that was probably a nightmare, but I am too fucking tired to care. I'll be honest with you. So, again, I wrote this essay because, like I said, I was traveling around thinking about being an American abroad with all the horrible things that we're doing in the world. And, both Stomping Jen and I were talking about, eventually, if we could, I think I would fucking want to go live somewhere in Europe. I don't speak Spanish, but I have to tell you, I think I took enough Spanish in high school and a little bit in college where I felt really comfortable moving around and navigating the country. And I was saying to Stomping Jen, I think I want to retire to Europe. yes, I do think I want to retire to Europe. I love it over there. You know, I could spend all day walking around those old cities, stopping in little coffee shops, eating ham. Spain is like the ham capital of the world. There's so much ham in Spain. It's called jamón. I ate so much ham while I was on vacation. It was crazy. I think I want to retire where there's ham on every corner. It's not an exaggeration. There was almost every block in every city in Spain has a ham shop. It was amazing. Sorry. I had to take a drink of seltzer. Anyways. All right. Well, I promised you I wouldn't turn this into an excited dad living room vacation photograph slideshow, so I'm going to keep that promise. Maybe I can convince Stomping Jen to come on. We can talk a little bit more about some of the places we went and some of the things we saw and some of the adventures we had.
I don't want to be an immortal lobster.
Okay, folks. Well, that's the episode for this week. I would invite you to please follow the podcast on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, wherever we have a social media presence, okay? Threads. Don't follow us on X. Fuck Elon Musk. Okay? Let's see. If there's something you want to tell me about in response to this episode and my essay, please send me feedback. You can email me, softservepodcast@gmail.com. You can DM me on Facebook or Instagram. We have a contact form on our website. You could fill that out. Tell me you think I'm a piece of shit. Whatever you want to do, okay? I don't care. Do what you want to do. And that is this week's episode. I don't know if I'll be back next week. I honestly don't know week from week. Right now, I seem to have the energy to keep doing this. So while I have the energy, I'm going to keep doing it. Okay? All right. Well, that's it. You know what I have to do. You know what I have to say to you. Bye now.
This world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road.